Welcome to the Banking Bros podcast. I'm your host today with a special guest. So you're in for a treat as we talk with Brandon Neely of Wealth Wisdom Financial. Brandon, glad you're here. Welcome to our show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeremiah. This is going to be so much fun. I love working with people who do business together. You and your brother are inspirations to us. Since me and my wife are doing business together, and we're still married.
Yeah,
Uh,
good
so,
so far. So
yeah,
no matter what happens, I guess that I'll always be brothers to my brother, even if we
yeah,
decide not to be married or we move on to other greener pastures if things get rocky in the office. But yeah, it'll always be my brother. So, yes,
yep.
we've got family businesses here and we're walking people through code cracking cash flow, as we say around here. But on this episode, we want to hear your story. We know
hmm
that you've got your own journey to what brought you to the place and space where you're going to do this crazy thing that you're trying to shift people's mindsets around the money paradigm and the matrix or whatever terms you may call it. But 10 years ago, our journey started with this. But why don't you take us back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? How did you grow up and what was the money conversation in your life before you found infinite banking?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. We are activists. My wife and I. We always wanted to make a difference in the world. So I was in the music industry way back when. Worked for major celebrities, and got out of that business because, well, seriously, it blackens your soul and in other ways. And I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore. This is nuts. So left that. Still want to make a difference. Prior to even the music industry, I was in the Marine Corps, and all these different things kind of led us into this idea of church planting. We
Mm,
are people of faith.
yep.
We wanted to make a difference, and we're like, well, the way to do it is to go plant a church because that's what in the church world that's what they say, right?
Okay.
And so we said, oh, but maybe we should. Not everybody walks into a church, but they'll walk into a coffee shop, right? And so this idea of cheers was in our head, ethical economics and community building, and so we started our first business together. Me and my wife have been doing business together for a long time, almost married 19 years, and really that was the idea of overflow. That's where our coffee shop came into play, right? And so we did all the things. We interviewed people. We said, well, we're going to do this kind of thing. Let's learn. And we had no rich relatives, absolutely none.
Okay.
And so we bootstrapped for this coffee shop and asked God. God, we felt like it was called to do this. MJ DeMarco, he wrote a book. If you want to be a millionaire, don't start a coffee shop. Millionaire Fastlane, I think it was,
Okay.
if I remember.
All right. Yep.
Um, well, apparently I didn't read that book, right?
Okay. Right.
Yeah, apparently. So in this whole endeavor, we started the business. We had watched this. We had this documentary film screening back room that we would play, and one of my friends was a financial professional, and he's like, "Hey, I have a documentary. You wanna watch this documentary?" And so we watched this documentary called Banking with Life. And it was like, oh, we did all the Susie Orman, all the Dave Ramsey stuff, all the things. Well, Dave would probably say never go into debt to start a business
Of
in the
course.
first place.
Yeah.
Um, we had a little bit of debt, um, and we were like, oh my gosh, we need to talk to him and start these policies, right? And we had avoided them for quite a bit of time because we're like, yeah, we're too busy. He's my friend would ask, hey, let's talk, and I'm like, well, you need to talk to her. That's how the deflecting thing. She watched the documentary, and then we were off to the races.
So you did understand a little bit about what was coming when you started to sit down for the documentary. You had conversations
I
around
A little
policies
bit.
or life insurance or infinite banking?
I knew it was life insurance, and
Okay.
I knew I had a Northwestern Mutual policy, and so I was like, oh, that's great. I kind of think this is good. But why it turned for us is like we are the biggest risk in our business and the biggest investment. And we did not make a lot of money.
Okay.
So we needed to be saving somewhere that we had access to. Right. And so we started our first policies, $400 a month each, which was half of our income pretty much,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
a lot.
Yeah.
Um, for your listeners, like start somewhere. Like, and we were starting somewhere knowing that we needed to make sure we had a um well, you said the cash compound. We wanted to make sure we had a
Yeah.
place
Right.
in case things went south, in case something happened, right? Just in case. Well, fast forward, we started our policies a little bit. We're doing this thing, uh, and 7 years, 6 years into the business, and they were having a roof repair on our roof, and a freak storm happened. Right
During the repair, we got a freak
during
storm.
the
Oh
repair,
goodness, here
we
it
had a
comes.
rainstorm.
All right.
And when people say, well, hurricanes happen to a region, I'm like, this was a black swan event that happened just in my business. Nobody else got affected because
Yeah.
they had roofs.
Right.
We did not.
Right.
And I got a call from my staff saying, hey, you need to come into the store right now because the store is falling apart. And you have staff, like sometimes you're like, yeah, you're over exaggerating, I'll be in Monday. Well, I see a video and we're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And it was inches, like it was a hurricane. Now I live in Ohio. I mean, it
Okay.
was in Chicago at the time with the coffee shop, but Chicago does not have hurricanes,
Sure.
right? I've had hurricanes. I'm used to live in New Orleans, right? So I've experienced water.
Yeah.
Well, this sucked. Well, because I had my infinite banking policy, I was able to overcome the flood, right? I was able to use that for because payroll still happens, right? You still have to pay your bills, even though you have no income coming in. I think you said that on a podcast recently, that an event happens, right? Things happen, and you need money, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that was why I had the policy. So we used it. Um, Funny thing though was when we were walking through the water, they were saying, you probably not. It's probably toxic. You shouldn't walk in this. Well, we didn't know that my wife was pregnant at the
Okay.
time.
All right.
So we were like, oh shoot, she's pregnant. Now the business is falling apart. What do we do? And the same time with the coffee shop, they were giving us a year-to-year lease instead of a 5-year lease. So as a business owner, you want to have control,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why I love the policies, because it gives us some control of when to deploy. So with all that said, one of my friends would always ask, "What's your number?" And I got it back. Everything was back to normal. He would always ask, "What's your number? What's your number to sell?" And when we had found out we're pregnant, my wife's like, "Well, I can't have a baby behind the bar. It's illegal. Things are going to shift."
Sure.
So we sold the business to this guy that would always ask, "What's your number?" Which is not the best way to do evaluation. If you're doing an evaluation for a business, don't do it that way.
For sure.
Another way, other ways to do it. But then my wife's like, "Well, now you got to go get a job because we have no income from the business, and you need to go work because I don't I'm pregnant. No one's going to hire me." So I interviewed to work with my mentor, and he said no. And then later he said, "I have an idea. How about your wife and you start your own agency, and I'll coach you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds even better because
All
I'm
right.
not very compliant anyway." So that's why he wanted her. And we started our business, not knowing about that Dave Ramsey loves to hate on us, not knowing all of that. We just knew this concept helped us sell the business, not close the business. Right. And that was then we started this 7 years ago. Love what we do. Learned along the way, but shoot, it was not an easy road.
Sure. Yeah.
By far.
Well, let's talk about some of those early years, 7 years ago. Still, in terms of lifelong business callings,
Mhm.
7 years is still young, but
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the first couple of years, you're in a new industry now and you are being mentored,
yeah,
but we're in sales or advising, paradigm shift, as I mentioned earlier, with people's mindset around money, finance, life insurance, etc. So,
yeah.
what type of obstacles are you up against when you're thinking about sharing this with friends or family or doing marketing?
Yeah, I think we were learning, and as I was just thinking about this recently of our process of becoming clients. It took us a couple years even to become clients, right? Even though I was friends with him, and so a lot of times we're in the matrix. We just heard something on TikTok, which wasn't invented then, but YouTube, those kind of things. That this is the way money works,
Okay,
right?
right.
And
Yeah,
so
as
I
designed,
think,
right?
yeah, the biggest shift was I thought this is the cat's pajamas. It's kind of like faith in Jesus, and you're like, man,
Okay,
this thing changed my life.
this is it, right?
You should follow this, and people will go across the street, do whatever to avoid you. Those kind of things are really, what would I say, challenging.
Yeah,
When you know, hey, again, I'm a follower of Jesus, so I'm like, well, this can change your life.
sure.
Similarly,
Okay,
with this concept of infinite banking, they're like, well, you're just doing this. This is why. And so that was the biggest thing. Also, our limiting beliefs, right? Our first policies were smaller. So I'm like, well, I can't do big policies. I don't know anything about it. And so as I've grown and learned and figured out, like, I'm a coffee shop owner. I'm not a financial person. And as I've gone into this, I'm like, wait a second. We are, if you run any kind of business, you should know your P&L statements. You should know this kind of stuff. Most businesses, what I've learned, fast forward now, is most businesses are faking it. Um, we we learned we actually were able to sell a business. Like, what business? How many people actually sell businesses? And so those are things I learned in
yeah.
building confidence.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with folks now in the financial advising space, and we're talking about this in a traditional way because we're talking
Hmm.
about life insurance, not a typical way. We're trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
use those words around here every once in a while. And we learned them from Kim Butler. Okay. So
yeah,
typical would be financial planning, where
yeah.
the people are talking about retirement plans and qualified plans and market returns and indexes. We're talking about traditional stuff, right? Cash flow
Hmm.
management.
Yeah,
So when we're dealing with that with folks, when you didn't have a background in this, you'd been a business owner previously to that, you'd served the country. My question is, what did you even have to learn? And what are your suite of competencies now for your clients? Oh, we talk it through like this. I'm
yeah.
an expert in these areas. I'd love to know.
Yeah, so a couple things I think about is the 10-10-10 savings rule.
Okay.
Robert Kiyosaki, or not, no, Richest Man in Babylon. 10%
Yep.
of all you earn is for you to keep. The idea of tithing
Okay.
is big in us. Like, what you put first matters. That's why tithing is so important. And oftentimes, what I think about is everyone has a plan for your money. Even when you're a business owner, they're going to be like, well, if you join this program, then you're going to get leads for life, right? Whatever it is, even for coffee shop. And so I learned saving, that 10-10-10 savings formula, which is 10% long term, 10% medium term, and 10% short term, and live
Okay.
within your means,
Yep.
right? Um, that's obvious, right? I also, before we had Wealth Wisdom Financial, we called it Grandma's Wealth Wisdom.
Okay.
And the tagline was, sometimes intelligence skips a generation,
Oh, okay.
right?
Interesting. Right.
And we were like, maybe we should
Was that some
shift it.
sort of dig to your parents
Oh,
potentially?
absolutely.
Oh, it
And
was. Okay. Oh
and
boy.
a lot of
Yeah.
baby boomers in general,
Yeah.
we were
Okay. I
taught
got you. Right.
to investing in savings, right? Isn't that what they say? Um, right? Those kind of
Hmm.
things that I'm like, no, the greatest generation, they saved. And where did they save? Life
Whole life
insurance.
insurance. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And so looking back and saying, maybe the wisdom we're taught, put into your 401k, take the match, do all the things, whatever. Most of it's fairly new compared to what even Richest Man in Babylon, and those ideas
Yeah.
of
Right.
principles. And I think that's the power, is principles. And the policy is it. I mean, life insurance is part of a tactic. Where do you put it? But the principles are safe, right? Build those habits, and profit first is one of those habit stackers that I feel
Yeah.
like is
Agreed.
important to build. And then you stack, if you know how to build a good cash flow system, where do you put your money when you have a lot of reserves? Well, I could put it in a life insurance policy if I'm saving for taxes, and then deploy it out, right? And so I'm still doing the 10-10-10 or profit first buckets. I'm just putting them in places that I have access and control.
Access and control. I love that. Okay, very good. Well, I love that how you teach your clientele that. So, next question for the clientele journey. We're going through this a little bit right now, modifying some things. Is let's say people get started with you and they want to do this infinite banking thing. What do they do next after that? Over the years, we've had some formulas that helped people discover, oh, we're going to pay off debt or we're going to invest. What are your clients doing out there? Are they saving for college or are they starting coffee shops?
I think it depends, right? That's why asking, doing a full analysis, like I don't just say, I'm just going to sell you a policy.
Yep.
It's like asking your dreams and goals and cash flow, right? And in the end, it's all cash flow, right? But what are the obstacles? Sometimes they have a dream of starting a coffee shop, or some. I would say don't start a coffee shop. That's personally I
Okay.
would tell them
Now,
that.
what's crazy is
Yeah.
so Joan and I have a brother between us. The banking bros have a third brother. We talk about him sometimes, and he has coffee shops.
Right.
And oddly enough, as we record this, early June 2020, 2025, he just closed one.
Hmm.
And he's got a mobile catering and a gourmet type um, unit and units that he's had in the past. But COVID obviously really destroyed things in the last few years for
Yep.
some of his operations. He had multiple shops, but he did close a shop last
Yep.
week, actually, of all things. So,
Well, and I think that's where, when I sold our business, it was pre-COVID.
yep. Okay.
We were also, one of the things that helped us get through even polar vortex. People are like, "Oh, a pandemic happens." I'm like, "Well, we had polar vortex. No one was leaving their house. They didn't wear
Yeah.
masks at the time, but they
Oh,
weren't leaving their house." And we were in an episode of Chicago PD. They paid us a lot of money for them to walk through our shop, and I met all the celebrities there,
oh yeah.
which is
Wow.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
um, and revenue. Like your brother might have gotten paid to be a location one or two times. Who knows?
That's crazy.
Um,
Yeah.
it's all one wallet, in my opinion. But um, what were we saying? I was saying something on. I don't remember where we're going with the question.
Well, I was asking the, I interrupted you, I think, but it
Mm.
was the client journey
Oh yeah.
of where they're headed. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to have, and for me it's like really asking those questions. The reason
Yep.
we ask so much, and you guys probably do the same, isn't just because I want to know all the things, but a policy can be reverse engineered based off of the goals,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes I think of it as Nelson Nash says, the pilot guy, right?
Yep.
Is there a lot of friction that's stopping them? Maybe it's debt, right? And they're like, "Yeah, I put all this money into my 401k. I got the match." And I'm like, "Well, dude, you got a 3% match, but your credit cards are at 18%. Maybe you should make it switch somehow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Maybe." And not haven't even involved the policy yet. But some of those conversations help, because in the end, I ask, "What's your dreams and goals? Where do you want to accomplish?" And a lot of times, this is the reality. A lot of times, people aren't very self aware. They're just sleepwalking through life. And
Yeah.
so, as you guys do your analysis and talk to people, it's like helping them unplug from the matrix, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
just got off a call. I'll corroborate that message with a call I just got off of this morning, and it's a couple, military couple. He's got orders from the States to Germany soon. And as they started a policy on her, the matriarch of the family, three kids,
Hmm.
I was getting in kind of my first really good conversation with him as well. And he's on board and he's excited, but most of our conversation is not about the one or two numbers. It's about unplugging from the matrix,
Yeah.
realizing where their cash flow is and isn't going. Talking about, just like you said, things like, well, the government and Uncle Sam may be doing this for you. What is your bank doing for you? What would the
Hmm.
policy do for you? What if we switched some things? I love your analysis that you just said. Well, if we're paying 18% out and we're getting a match or an average of 7, 8, 9% in some qualified play, how do you figure you're winning? And
Yeah.
people go, oh man, we need to have some conversations. And I'm clear to let them know I'm here to ask and guide you, but some of the information you guys want to uncover or discover as a family, it's actually none of my business. But
Yeah.
when you uncover and discover it, as we help you and I give you questions for that framework, then you'll come back and go, hey, 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 we've got some ideas about we need to be doing things some differently. We figured out who we are. We figured
Yep.
out what we want to do. We figured out what the plan is for the next year, 2, 5 years, or something like that. So I love uncovering that, but at the same time, building trust, having a good conversation with some families, because I'm not asking you because I want to take all of your money under my management care.
Yeah.
That's not my goal. I don't have anything to sell you in that respect, but do you understand where you are? Before we
Yeah.
start figuring out what everything else is, do you understand where you are, what you want, who you are, what you don't want to happen? Let's talk about that.
So I find that, and love to ask you this question is,
Yeah.
as you do that, do people like stop? Do they kind of like, oh wait, I don't know, so I'm gonna just avoid you because I don't want to deal with
Plenty of people do it. I
those.
think that's where you were, Brandon. A couple of years ago when your friend was begging you, pushing you, introducing you
Mhm.
to this information, some people are not ready for it yet. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're anti, but they're not ready. So they don't know
Yeah.
how to have that conversation. And I know that in this space, I'll give you another example because you asked me the question, but in this space, you're going to have this issue as well.
Mhm.
Some one person starts this in a dual household hold, right?
Yep.
Where there's a
Yep.
him and a her or something
Yep.
like that, and the married couple or maybe, and the other person is not anywhere near where this person is. They've been watching me on YouTube as a solo act within their family for the
Yeah.
last 3 months. And so they have a call, they put in a DM, they have a question, they get a policy, but the other spouse is nowhere near where they are. So yes, it becomes odd and awkward because they're not moving in tandem
Think.
together.
Yeah.
It's not a team framework. Now, at the same time, let's go to an individual. Let's not pick on families, but let's go to an individual just like you and
Hmm.
me. It's when the student is ready, the teacher
Yeah.
appears.
Yeah.
And so I wonder from time to time, even in my own life, finances or family or fun or faith or fitness, where is the student, me, not ready?
Yeah.
Because is it possible to live an abundant life, right? Those are words from the good book. Live abundant life. Jesus said, I came to give you life and that abundantly. Well,
Yeah.
life is all those areas. Life is
Yeah.
a lot of different things. Life is not just money and finances, but where is the student not ready? The teacher appeared.
Yeah.
Physical body 2,000 years ago, within me upon accepting his sacrifice. I'm a man of faith. I'm using all the church words, but like, where am I not ready to receive the
Yeah.
abundance? I keep eating all these dang candy bars, right? And staying up late and watching stupid stuff on Netflix. Like, maybe I'm not ready. So it's exactly the same thing. So there's some new assessments that I'm considering for our clients. There's some new things we've learned from people in this industry. Hey, fam, prospect, client, take this, hit me back. Let's talk about this assessment
Yeah.
together, this personality. Or where do you do things, and financially specifically, if they don't want to get into the conversation with me about all the philosophy,
Yeah.
it's like, where do you keep your money today? Where is it?
And
Simple things.
I
Yeah.
think about that. Our old business name formerly was Overflow, right?
Okay.
And
Yep.
you can overflow if you aren't taking care of yourself,
There you go. Look, you
right?
can't you
And
can't pour from an empty cup, baby.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And then it'll overflow to the community and the world,
Yeah. I
right?
love that.
And the reason I love Nelson Nash, even though I never met him, is the principles, right? Overflow is a principle. The financial system is, I'd say that they put in toxic water out there, and we need to
Mm,
change that
yeah.
dynamic of moving from um, whatever wealth is to living with enough and being able to almost unplug. So I'm a part of this other community where I'm doing a literally just happened detox
Ah,
from all of social media and games. So just the other day,
all
I
right.
deleted off of my game all my games
Oh,
um, and social media
okay.
because guess what I do? Oh, I need a hit. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at this thing,
Little
and
dopamine.
yeah, and so I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I need to. And if I connect and with this um, program I'm doing is we need to have Renaissance time. We need to have time where we're
Mm,
thinking about bigger questions,
mm.
and then we'll flow into other things. Now,
I love
money
that.
is one piece of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course, just one piece of your whole
yeah,
life.
and I think the policies are amazing. And even with the program I'm a part of, they're like, wait, you could do this with life insurance. I'm like, yes, absolutely. So you plug that in a component of overflow, and then all kinds of things happen. The problem with business owners is we're addicted to the things, and maybe it's not even this. Maybe we're addicted to, oh well, I need to make another sale,
Mm.
right? And
I've
we're
had
we're
oh, yeah, I've had that syndrome for sure. I like to
yeah,
talk and
yeah.
sure, yeah. I like
And
to talk to
so
people. Yeah.
so I think that that's the hardest part is as a lot of times in business owner world, I love profit first because it's about keeping money.
Yes.
But a lot of people are like, yeah, but if you just buy this widget,
Yep.
we'll teach you to sell more or something. And I'm like, well, it's a balance. Sometimes you need to figure out your sales, and that's maybe EOS method and doing those kind of things. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's about keeping money, and both. Oftentimes it's both. Um, and that's why you have to have a good strategist that understands that. Hey, I'm not a tax person, but I understand taxes enough to say, maybe you should not do that, or you should do that. Talk to a tax person that knows. But that's why I love infinite banking policies, is because the way in which they are built is to be thoughtful about taxes, even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wonderful. I love that. Big philosophy stuff. Well, let's get back and like hone it in a little bit here. Tell us about your practice day to day. I know you run it with the missus. You've got an
Yep.
assistant, you got some team members and things like that that you may be using and who is it that it works best with you? Who do you like working with? Or tell us about an ideal client for you
Yep.
out there, just in case somebody is working with us, listening to us, or they meet you and they're watching our broadcast here that we're recording. They say, "Oh, you know what? I think I might relate to that, and I might want
Yep.
to work with you." We're not in competition, obviously. We're in collaboration here. So,
Yeah.
who's a good person for you? How do you like to work? You probably do things different than us. There's no way
Yep.
around here, at the Banking Bros and the Cash Compound, we can get off of social media. We
Right.
use it like crazy.
Yep.
So who are you
Yep.
working with?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I have a team that helps me. So I'm not off of social media as a company or in general. But I'm trying to get off of it as a consumer.
Yes.
I will be a producer. That's different than consumption. And so that's the thing that I'm like, this is unhealthy. But I think that what I love is real estate investors, business owners, that because I'm a former business owner with the coffee shop, I can speak that language of buying milk and making sure the staff isn't just like pouring it down the drain, because it's all right. It's not my milk. You know what I mean. Like those kind of conversations um, keep me going because I think business and cash flow all the time. So those are big ones. Um, and individuals. The reason we wrote our book, Five Smooth Stones, is sometimes moving from chaos to still, um, setting your sights, tracking, inspecting, looking
Mm,
for 1% and living deliberately. That's one of our acronyms. But I love business owners because they understand how to make money. I just want to help them keep it too. Um,
yeah,
so those are
I
my
love that.
favorites.
Well, very
The
good. Well, we've had a great conversation so far, and I look forward to being a guest with my brother on your show very soon. We
Yes.
recently saw each other at the Nelson Nash Institute Coaching Academy.
Yeah.
And my brother and I are privileged to be, hopefully, I guess, in the future, serving as coaches in that environment and helping more people understand how they can understand the concept of IBC and
Mhm.
then share it with other people. So excited about that and glad to see you there. Where will we see you next? In person or at some sort of event? What should the people know? And if they can't get there, where do we find you online?
Oh, well, as we have a 7-year-old, I don't get out as much, or it's either one or one of us,
Yep.
typically. I go to the N and I events, and there's a real estate event here in Ohio that I go to in November. Um, and I don't, a bit definitely online. We're trying to figure that out because I'm like, how do I be present and not pack my calendar with speaking everywhere? My wife is a public speaker. She loves that stuff, but she's like, but I don't like people as much. She works with clients, right?
Yeah.
But she's an introvert. So if you go to our website, or Wealth Wisdom Financial is our podcast YouTube channel, um, you can find us. And she's the brains behind the operation. I'm the colorful commentary. So
My man. Well,
yeah, that's
hey,
the way
it's
it
been
works.
great to have that color commentary and understand a little bit of your motives and how you guys got here on our show. So, Brandon, thanks for being here. Fans, friends, family out there, make sure you check them out. Wealth Wisdom Financial, or if you're close by, maybe in the Ohio area, that will be a good fit for you to start your journey toward financial freedom and maybe just breaking free from the paradigms that are holding you back. So, appreciated this conversation very much, man. Thank you for coming on our show. We'll be on yours soon, sometime
Yes,
later
for
on in
sure.
2025, and we'll see you in person when we see you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremiah.
Peace, man.
Now tuned to the banking bro. Said we couldn't make it, drink or settle. This the life we chose. Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer. We taught you how to be the bank.